Complaining is the quiet poison that destroys your strength from the inside. It seems harmless, it feels justified, but every time you complain, you surrender your power, you leak your energy, and you tell the world you are smaller than your problems. The modern world teaches people to complain about everything, to seek sympathy, to avoid responsibility, to escape discomfort. But the Stoic warrior understands that complaining is the language of the powerless, the mindset of the trapped, the anthem of those who choose victimhood over victory. Complaining changes nothing. It doesn't solve the problem, it doesn't make you stronger, it doesn't earn you respect. It only anchors you deeper into weakness and reinforces the belief that life is something happening to you, not something you are meant to control. This video is not about dismissing real pain. It's about refusing to waste time broadcasting it. It's about rising into a mindset where you stop explaining your struggles and start overcoming them. The goal is not to feel better about your problems. It is to outgrow them through decisive action and mental discipline. The most dangerous thing about complaining is that it feels good in the moment. It creates an illusion of release. But what you release is not the weight of the problem, it's your own control over it. The Stoic path is different. It is the path of enduring without seeking attention, of fixing without making noise, of building without demanding applause. This is your invitation to kill the habit of complaining, to step into a mindset of ruthless responsibility, and to build a life that speaks through strength, not words. Complaining weakens you in ways most people never see, because every complaint chips away at your mental strength, your emotional stability, and your ability to take meaningful action. It quietly trains your mind to focus on problems rather than solutions, to search for reasons why life is unfair instead of finding ways to rise. Every time you complain, you give away a piece of your personal power, because you declare that your circumstances have more control over you than you have over yourself. And this weakens not just your mindset, but your entire presence in the world. Complaining turns your energy outward toward blame, frustration, and helplessness, when all of that power could be redirected inward toward discipline, clarity, and growth. People think complaining is harmless, but it's the first step in building a mindset of defeat, because it teaches you to rehearse your problems rather than solve them, to vocalize your pain rather than overcome it, and to feed the emotional cycle of frustration rather than break it. The more you complain, the more you solidify the belief that you are stuck, that life is happening to you, that your story is out of your hands. And this belief is what traps most people in cycles of weakness and emotional paralysis. Complaining builds a habit of focusing on what you cannot control, and that is the most dangerous trap for anyone who wants to live with strength, purpose, and resilience. You must understand that every complaint is a decision to either reinforce weakness or build power. When you stop complaining, you cut off the fuel that feeds the victim mindset, and you begin to condition your mind to stay focused on what you can control, what you can change, and what you can build. The habit of complaining steals from you more than any failure ever could, because it convinces you to sit in your pain instead of rise from it. And the moment you kill this habit is the moment you start stepping into a life of unshakable power. Complaining is emotional leakage. It's the silent way you drain yourself of power by constantly pouring energy into things that bring no return, things that don't move you forward, and things that only feed your frustration and keep you small. Every time you complain, you lose momentum, you lose focus, and you lose the sharpness required to build real discipline, because complaining consumes the energy you should be using to solve, adapt, and overcome. It's like bleeding out slowly without realizing it, weakening your resilience one word, one thought, one emotional outburst at a time. Complaining feels like release, but it's really escape. It tricks you into believing you've done something when all you've done is talk about the problem, not move toward the solution. It becomes an addiction because it provides a short burst of emotional relief, a brief sense of being heard, a brief moment where the weight feels shared. But once those moments pass, you are left exactly where you were, only now you've trained your mind to seek relief instead of resolve. Complaining doesn't just waste time, it erodes your self-respect because you begin to see yourself as someone who talks about problems instead of handling them. It floods your system with frustration and trains you to rehearse negativity on a loop, which hardwires your brain to look for more reasons to be disappointed, more reasons to blame, more reasons to feel stuck. Emotional leakage through complaining is the opposite of stoic discipline. It's a form of surrender disguised as expression. When you stop complaining, you close the valve that drains your strength. You force your energy to stay inside you, and you build the pressure required to take action, to endure discomfort without seeking sympathy, and to develop the calm, sharp focus that separates warriors from victims. Complaining may feel small in the moment, but it is the daily habit that keeps most people locked in weakness and emotional exhaustion. And when you cut it off, you reclaim the clarity, energy, and self-control you've been leaking for years. Complaining becomes a habit because victimhood is comfortable. It offers an easy escape from responsibility, a shield from accountability, and a false sense of safety that keeps you from facing the brutal truth about your own choices. Over time, complaining becomes automatic. You don't even realize you're doing it because your mind has been conditioned to focus on what's wrong, to seek comfort in frustration, and to cling to sympathy as if it were progress. The habit grows because it is often rewarded. People listen, people agree, people offer validation. But all of that is emotional candy with no substance, and it keeps you trapped in a cycle where you trade real growth for momentary relief. The truth is that complaining is addictive because it gives you attention without requiring change. But that attention is a cheap substitute for the deep, quiet respect you earn when you take full responsibility for your life and move forward without whining. You must see that complaining is not simply venting. It is rehearsing weakness. It is feeding the story that you are powerless, and it is cementing a version of yourself that will always stay beneath your potential. The habit dies when you choose to kill the reward cycle, when you choose discipline over validation, silence over emotional leakage, and calm problem-solving over public frustration. Breaking the habit of complaining is not about pretending life is perfect. It's about building the strength to face imperfection without using your voice as an escape from your own power. Complaining solves nothing because it is the illusion of action without the reality of progress. It is motion without movement, noise without impact, a loud declaration of what's wrong without a single step toward what's right. Every complaint is a transaction where you trade energy for nothing, where you invest attention into problems that multiply the more you speak about them. People fall into the trap of thinking that by voicing their frustration, they are somehow processing it. But in truth, complaining simply rehearses the problem and conditions your mind to remain fixated on what you dislike, what you cannot control, and what drains your spirit. Action, not words, is what changes your life. Action is where strength is built, where control is reclaimed, where solutions are found, and where you break through the emotional cycles that complaining endlessly recycles. Complaining feels active, but it is a passive habit. It delays responsibility, it pushes away accountability, and it invites you to sit inside your problems instead of tearing them apart with focused, decisive moves. When you adopt a stoic mindset, you understand that energy spent complaining is energy lost forever. But energy spent taking action, even when the outcome is uncertain, builds power, resilience, and progress. The strongest people are not those who have the least to complain about. They're those who refuse to give their complaints any life, who redirect their frustration into discipline, who channel their anger into results, who hold their struggle quietly and let their growth speak instead. Complaining changes nothing because it keeps you locked in the same place. It circles you around the same emotional weight, the same story, the same victimhood narrative that makes you smaller.
When you kill the habit of complaining, you sharpen your ability to see solutions. You train yourself to act when others freeze, and you move through life with a silent, unstoppable force that demands respect without ever needing to shout. The people who win are the people who stop complaining and start building.
Control what you can is the core principle that shatters the complaining mindset because it forces you to shift your focus from external noise to internal mastery. It's the pivot point where your energy stops bleeding into things beyond your reach and starts fueling the areas where you hold real power. The Stoic warrior understands that life is filled with events, people, and outcomes that will forever remain outside your control. What happens, how others behave, what people think, the timing of life's challenges, all of these sit beyond your grasp. And yet most people waste their lives complaining about them, burning time and energy on what cannot be changed. When you focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your reactions, your discipline, your decisions, you reclaim the power that complaining quietly steals. Complaining is the act of obsessing over what you can't control while ignoring what you can. But control is always sitting in your hands, your ability to choose how you frame a situation, your ability to act with purpose despite frustration, your ability to hold your standards when life pushes against you. Every time you catch yourself about to complain, you must ask with brutal honesty, is this within my control? If the answer is no, you discard it, you let it die without attention, because feeding it only feeds your weakness. If the answer is yes, you take action, you shift, you adapt, you push forward, because action is where control becomes real. This shift from complaint to control builds emotional strength and mental toughness because you stop fighting battles that don't belong to you and you start building victories in the areas where your power is absolute. Living this way is not passive acceptance, it's ruthless ownership. It's refusing to waste even a second of your life on powerless emotions, and instead, it's a disciplined choice to live in the domain where you can bend outcomes through effort, where you can craft resilience through choice, and where you can build a life that is sharp, clear, and completely yours. When you control what you can, you no longer need to complain. You become the person who quietly moves mountains. Discomfort without complaint is the purest form of strength because it shows that you have reached a level of discipline where you can endure life's weight in complete silence, where you can hold frustration, pain, and challenge without needing to leak it through your words, without needing to broadcast your struggle to earn validation or sympathy from anyone. Most people believe that if something is uncomfortable, they must express it, they must vocalize it, they must let the world know. But this is the mark of a fragile mind, one that has not yet developed the capacity to carry discomfort with grace. The Stoic warrior sees discomfort as a sacred test, an opportunity to prove to themselves that they can stand firm without begging the world for comfort or understanding. When you choose to hold your discomfort in silence, you train yourself to manage pain without amplifying it. You build mental toughness that does not rely on external support, and you develop a quiet force that separates you from the masses who crumble and complain at the first sign of difficulty. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is the arena where you sharpen your focus, where you test your discipline, and where you build the resilience that will carry you through storms most people would never survive. Complaining is the escape from this arena. It is the way people disqualify themselves from growth by choosing comfort over strength, relief over endurance, noise over progress. But when you refuse to complain, you hold your discomfort like a weapon. You carry your weight with calm, and you teach your nervous system that you are not at the mercy of pain. You command it, you direct it, and you use it as fuel. The people who rise are not those who feel the least discomfort. They are those who feel it fully, carry it silently, and act with precision in spite of it. Living this way builds a life of quiet dominance where your strength is undeniable, not because you talk about it, but because you embody it. Building a mind that rejects complaints requires rewiring your entire response system so that your default reaction to challenge is not emotional leakage, not blame, not frustration, but calm assessment, disciplined focus, and immediate problem solving. You have to train your mind to become allergic to complaints, to feel internal resistance every time you catch yourself slipping toward negativity, to build an automatic system that detects weakness in thought and redirects it towards strength without hesitation. This mental rewiring begins with brutal self-awareness. You must actively track when you complain, why you complain, and what emotional reward you're chasing when you do it. Complaining is a mental reflex built over years of seeking comfort, but like any reflex, it can be broken through deliberate exposure to its opposite. You must replace the urge to vent with the habit of solving. You must condition your mind to ask one ruthless question: what is the next best move I can control? That single question rewires your emotional system because it breaks the loop of victimhood and forces your attention onto action. You begin to starve the complaining habit by refusing to give it airtime, refusing to validate it, and instead building the muscle memory of focus, control, and strategic response. Over time, you will notice that the things that used to trigger you no longer carry the same emotional weight because your mind has evolved beyond the need to leak energy through words. This mental toughness is not built in one day. It is the result of thousands of micro decisions where you choose silence over reaction, action over excuse, clarity over noise. You no longer need to tell people you are strong. Your mind becomes a fortress, and your life becomes proof. When your default reaction becomes ownership, discipline, and calm execution, you reach a level of quiet power that few will ever experience because most people never kill the habit of complaining. They live their entire lives rehearsing their problems while you are out here solving yours. Living as a warrior, not a victim, is the ultimate antidote to complaining because it is a lifestyle that rejects excuses, discards emotional leakage, and embraces total responsibility for every step of your path with calm, ruthless discipline. The warrior mindset is not about pretending that life is easy or that pain does not exist. It is about standing inside the fire of discomfort without needing to scream, without needing to be rescued, and without the world to validate your struggle. Victims complain because they believe life owes them something, because they expect the world to adjust to their emotions, because they seek comfort in blame. But the warrior understands that nothing is owed, nothing is guaranteed, and nothing will ever be handed to you. The warrior moves through life knowing that control begins and ends with them, that the only thing that defines their story is how they choose to respond when the weight gets heavy and the path gets dark. This way of living is not about suppressing emotions, it's about owning them, mastering them, and using them as fuel rather than reasons to quit. Living as a warrior means you walk through challenges with clarity, you carry pain with discipline, and you pursue growth with silent aggression, always focused on building, always focused on the next move, always refusing to sit still in weakness. The life of a warrior is not loud, it is steady, it is precise, and it is built on the quiet refusal to waste a single second on powerless words. Complaining cannot survive in this life because the warrior does not allow it space, does not give it breath, does not tolerate it in themselves. When you commit to this path, you no longer need to seek sympathy or explain your struggle. You live in a way that commands respect without demanding attention. You kill the habit of complaining not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger, sharper, more focused, and more dangerous. You rise in silence while others remain in noise. Complaining is the silent thief that steals your power, your focus, and your ability to rise above life's challenges. But the path of the Stoic warrior is clear. Stop complaining, start owning. This journey demands brutal honesty with yourself, relentless discipline to rewire your mind, and the courage to endure discomfort without seeking relief through words. Remember, every complaint is a choice to remain weak. Every moment without complaint is a step towards unshakable strength. The warrior does not waste energy on excuses or blame. They move forward with calm, focused determination, turning setbacks into fuel and silence into power. If this message resonates, commit now to kill the habit of complaining and build a life defined by action, resilience, and mental toughness. Share your breakthrough in the comments. How are you stepping into responsibility today? Subscribe to join a community of warriors mastering themselves and forging their own destiny. Your strength begins the moment you stop complaining. I'll see you in the next video.